35 years ago, the world fell in love with a story no one expected, a story about a woman who believed in dreams, and a man who believed in nothing but power. Together they changed each other's lives. Together they made us believe. In love again. The screen flickers with faceless silhouettes, a woman stepping out of a limo in high heels, a man watching from behind glass windows high above the city. The camera never reveals faces, only gestures, shadows, and atmosphere. Now, the story continues. And love has grown older, wiser, and more dangerous. The trailer begins with a faceless montage of old Hollywood glamour streets of Beverly. Hills glowing under neon lights, high-end boutiques, and a limo door opening slowly. A pair of red high heels touch the pavement. The sound of cameras clicking in the distance suggests memories of the past, as if the world still remembers the woman who once captured everyone's heart. The voiceover cuts through softly, warm and nostalgic, yet filled with weight. She was a dreamer. A girl who believed in second chances. He was a man of wealth, but without love. In each other they found something the world told them was impossible, a fairy tale that belonged to real people. A soft orchestral swell begins, echoing the original theme music from Pretty Woman, but slowed down, remixed into something more dramatic. The visuals remain faceless silhouettes of a man offering his hand, a woman's laughter in the distance. A champagne glass raised in a candlelit room, cut to a modern-day cityscape. The skyline is sharper, colder, filled with towering glass buildings. The streets are busier, louder, a reflection of how much the world has changed since the first chapter of their story. But time changes everything. Love that was once new and bright can fade, can be forgotten, or can return stronger than ever before. The screen fades into black. The music stops, leaving only the sound of a ticking clock. Slowly, the screen brightens again, this time showing two contrasting lives, a faceless man sitting in a boardroom, the glow of screens reflecting off his silver hair. He looks powerful, but weary. His empire is thriving, but his soul is empty. A faceless woman walking through an art gallery, sunlight washing over her. She's elegant, independent, and yet there's a hint of something missing, a pause in her step as she gazes at a painting of two figures holding hands. 35 years have passed. He has everything, yet nothing. She has lived her own life, found her own path. But one question remains. The camera slowly zooms in on the woman's hand, brushing over the glass of the painting, as if touching something long gone. What happens when the past comes knocking again? The music swells louder, building momentum. Quick flashes hit the screen, a limousine racing through the rain. A candle being blown out at a dinner table. Two silhouettes standing apart, separated by glass, not yet reunited. The final shot of this section is a faceless man holding a folded letter, his hand trembling slightly. The voiceover whispers, "Sometimes the fairy tale doesn't end. Sometimes it just takes a lifetime to begin again." The screen fades to black with the words in bold white letters. Pretty Woman 2 ***. The screen opens with a slow aerial shot of New York City at dawn. The light creeps between skyscrapers, revealing a city alive but restless. The hum of traffic fades into the sound of a heartbeat, deep and steady, as if reminding us that time itself has a pulse. Decades have passed, and the world has changed. The fairy tale city is no longer the same. The streets are faster, the nights are colder, the dreams harder to believe in. The camera glides down to a faceless figure standing at the top of a skyscraper boardroom. His outline is older, his posture heavy. He's dressed in power but surrounded by silence. His hand rests on a polished table where screens flicker with financial charts. Behind him, the city spreads out like a kingdom he owns, but it feels more like a cage than a throne. This is Edward Lewis, not revealed in face but in presence. Edward Lewis, the man who once built empires out of ambition, now finds himself a prisoner of his own success, surrounded by wealth but haunted by what he left behind. The shot cuts sharply. The music softens into something brighter, almost golden dot. Now we see a different world, a sunlit garden cafe filled with the sound of children laughing and birdsong. A woman, graceful in her movements, arranges flowers in a vase. Her smile is hinted at, her laughter echoed in the air, but her face is never shown. Her hands brush over old photographs tucked inside a book, one picture almost slipping out. A man and woman long ago, standing close, their eyes locked. This is Vivian Ward, independent, radiant, but with shadows lingering in her heart. Vivian Ward. The girl who once walked the streets of dreams, who found love in the unlikeliest of places, has built a life of her own. She has learned, she has grown, she has lived. Yet, deep within her heart lies an unfinished story. The camera lingers on her as she steps into an art gallery. She pauses in front of a painting, two faceless figures holding hands against a backdrop of light and shadow. She tilts her head as though she's not just looking at art, but at a memory she cannot escape. She tells the world she has moved on. But some loves never leave us, some loves... Wait, the tone shifts darker. A storm rolls over the city skyline. Edward is shown again, pacing alone in his high-rise office. Papers scatter across the desk, his hand trembling as he clutches a pen. His reflection in the glass shows a man both powerful and fragile, his empire standing tall yet on the brink of collapse. Now fate is moving again, his empire is crumbling, her world is about to change, and destiny is ready to bring them together once more. The pacing quickens. Quick montage shots strike the screen in rhythm with a rising drumbeat. A limousine door slams shut. A single rose left on a table. Vivian walking away from flashing cameras. Edward staring at a letter with unspoken words. A storm breaking into rain, soaking the streets. The voiceover deepens, more urgent. They thought their story was over. They thought they had lived their final chapter. But sometimes love does not belong to the past. Sometimes it demands a second beginning. The music swells, strings climbing, percussion echoing like a heartbeat. The screen goes black, and then in white letters the words appear: two worlds, two hearts, one unfinished story. The final image of this section is haunting. Vivian's hand slowly reaching for the same folded letter Edward once held. Neither face is shown, but the connection is clear. The past is calling, and the present is about to answer. Fade to silence. The screen fades in from silence. Heavy rain lashes against glass windows. The city that once looked golden now feels unforgiving, cold, metallic. Shadows stretch across the skyline as thunder rumbles in the distance. Fairy tales are fragile. They live in memory, in hope. But when tested by time, they can shatter. A faceless silhouette of Edward sits alone at the head of a massive boardroom table. Papers scatter across the polished surface, glowing red numbers flashing from screens in the background. His empire, once untouchable, is cracking. His hand tightens into a fist, but the tremor in his grip betrays the truth. He is no longer the man who had it all under control. Cut to Vivian. Her world is brighter, yet not untouched by shadows. We see her walking through a crowded charity gala. People smile, flash cameras, offer their hands, but she feels apart from it all. Her shoulders are straight, her movements graceful, but her silence carries weight. She stands near the edge of the hall, away from the chatter, as if searching for something beyond the crowd. He hides behind power. She hides behind grace, but both of them are haunted by the same ghost. The love they left behind. The music grows tense, low strings, almost like a heartbeat under pressure. Quick flashes flood the screen in rhythm. Edward raising his voice in a meeting, the room silenced by his rage. Vivian turning away from an old friend, her eyes locked on something unseen in the distance. A wine glass shattering on marble floor, the sound echoing. A storm tearing across the city skyline at night. Years apart have built walls, and now those walls are about to break. The scene shifts. A letter slides across a desk. Edward stares at it, his hand trembling. We don't see the words, but the weight of the moment is clear. Something unfinished is resurfacing. The next shot is Vivian unfolding the same letter, her breath caught in her throat. Their stories are no longer separate. Fate is pulling the threads tighter. But fate does not return love without a price. To find each other again, they must face the truths they once avoided. The pacing quickens. The screen fills with chaotic intercuts. Edward walking away from flashing cameras, his face hidden in shadow. Vivian's hand clutching her chest as if her heart remembers before her mind does. A storm-drenched limousine racing through empty streets. Two silhouettes meeting under an umbrella, but standing just far enough apart to feel like strangers. The voiceover sharpens, intense and heavy. Their worlds have changed. Their hearts are scarred. And the choices they make now will not only decide their love, but the lives they've built without each other. The music crescendos into a pounding. Rhythm, drums echoing like war. Images flicker. Edward standing in front of a mirror, the reflection of his younger self staring back at him. Vivian holding an old necklace, her hands shaking as memories flood her. A courtroom door slamming shut. A faceless silhouette screaming. In silence, rain pouring over them. This is not the love story you remember. This is not the fairy tale you once believed. This is the storm after the dream. The montage slows. The sound fades until only the rain remains. On screen, Edward and Vivian finally appear in the same frame but separated by glass. He stands inside his high-rise office, looking down. She stands on the street below, looking up. Neither can see the other clearly, only distorted reflections through the storm. And when they finally face each other, the question will not be if love survives, but if love can forgive. The music drops to silence. The screen fades to black dot in bold white letters. Pretty Woman 2, 2025, asterisk, the screen is black. Faint piano melody begins slow, aching and full of longing. For a moment, silence hangs heavy, broken only by the soft sound of rain dripping onto stone. Every love story has a beginning. Some have an ending, but the rarest of all are the ones that come back when the world least expects them. The camera drifts across a storm-soaked street, lights from passing cars blurring into streaks of gold and red. A woman's silhouette steps into the glow of a street lamp, her umbrella trembling in the wind. Across the street, a man's silhouette appears, frozen as if caught between running forward and walking away. The music swells, building tension. For 35 years they lived apart, and now destiny gives them one last chance. Quick flashes surge across the screen in rapid succession, each one sharper and more emotional than the last. Edward dropping a briefcase as rain washes over him. Vivian turning her head, her hair whipping in the storm. A door bursting open in a courtroom, a gasp echoing inside. A train pulling away from a platform as someone runs too late, hands reaching toward each other, but never quite touching. But love, after all this time, is no longer simple. It carries the weight of years, the scars of choices, the fear of losing everything again. The orchestra rises into a crashing crescendo. The visuals grow more desperate. Edward shouting into the storm, his words drowned out by thunder. Vivian walking away down a long hallway, light fading behind her. A wedding ring spinning across a marble table. A clock striking midnight, its chimes echoing like fate. Suddenly, the music stops. Silence, a single heartbeat. The screen cuts to black, then a faint light appears. The music shifts, soft and hopeful, as though something once broken is starting to heal. We see a sunrise breaking over the city skyline, painting the glass towers in gold. Vivian's silhouette stands on a balcony, her hand resting on the railing. Across town, Edward sits alone on a bench in a quiet park. Birds flutter past and the world feels new again. Because love is not about where it began, but where it chooses to go next. The screen flickers with softer, brighter images. Vivian's hand resting on a letter, but this time she smiles faintly. Edward placing a single rose on a table, his shoulders lighter. Two silhouettes walking side by side down a crowded street. Never quite touching, but closer than before. The music grows warmer, hopeful. This is not just a reunion. This is not just another story. This is proof that love does not fade. It waits. The screen brightens into a slow-motion shot. Edward and Vivian finally stepping into the same frame, their silhouettes facing one another against a backdrop of light. The storm is gone, the city is alive. And though we never see their faces, We feel everything in the space between them. The orchestra swells to its peak strings soaring, drums pounding like a heartbeat reborn. Text fades onto the black screen. Pretty woman 2 inches, love never fades, it waits. Coming 2025, the music holds for a beat, then drops into silence. One last whisper from the voiceover. The fairy tale is not over. Fade to black.